Hello guys, welcome back once again. We will just bang on straight away from where we left off in terms of building an asynchronous operation using sockets, right? This part, obviously, we just build a client as we've already done with a server. So we just bang on straight away rather than just talking too much. So the first bit, of course, is we just add a public class, and we call it object state. It's pretty much similar to what we've done previously. So what we do is obviously we add a private constant integer. This will be our port. So we set the value to 256. Then public socket. We just call it WSocket. We set that to null. Then we add another public byte array. We can call it the buffer, and we need to instantiate that as well. Put the value buffer size, as we don't have the buffer size already. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna make this the buffer size. So we put in here the buffer size, and one more bit is string builder. SB, we instantiate that as well. God, that's it. We've got for our object state. So the next bit, of course, is we add one more class, and it's a public class, and we call this an async socket client. So we add a couple of details. We have private constant integer. This will be our port, of course. We put that 4343, and we have the private static manual, and with this will be connect complete, and we initialize it with false as a parameter. So we just copy this and we paste it, change the name. This one will be send completed, and the next bit, of course, will be receive completed. So as you can see, they're all not necessarily trivial. So the next bit, of course, is we add another private static string, and this will be our response. So we set that to empty. So the next bit, of course, will be our public static void, and this will be to start our client. So we put our try catch. So what we do is we just print out in a console our exception. So what we do next is we get some details. The first bit, of course, is an IP host entry. So this will be our IP host. We get this from our DNS, from just our local get host entry, DNS guest host name. So what we do is an IP address. IP. This will be our IP host dot address. Then we take the first IP address element, and we have our IP endpoint. This will be our remote endpoint, and we set that to our new IP endpoint, so we can pass in our IP and our port. So what we do next is we initialize a new socket. So we call it client, and this will be a new instance of a socket. Then we pass in our IP dot address family, socket dot stream, socket type dot stream, and our protocol type will be protocol will be our TCP. So we have our client that begin connect. So we have our remote endpoint. We connect, and then our async callback will be connection callback. That will pass in our client here. So what we do next is we create our connection callback. So what we do next is we write we send. This is how we will send actually. So here we can pass our client and the message we would like to send. So what we do is we say this is socket message. So what we do is we say we pass in this index ERF. So the next bit of course is we create this method. So once we've got this method created, we go back and sort that out later, but first what we have to do is we say string, this will be our data. So we say send completed dot way1. So the next bit of course will be receive. This will handle our receive. So what we do is pass our client, then we can say receive completed dot way1. So what we do next is of course we're going to create the method receive, but we're just gonna do that later on. Before that, what we do is we write something to the console. This will be our response received. So as you can see, this method is a static and a class. Okay, so here we have a static response. Make sure you change it to a static. So we can get the whole thing up and running. You can put a response here. So then the next bit of course is we create a receive method. So after that this bit here, this is what we are left with. After here, so we can say client dot shutdown. We can say socket shutdown both. Then we can close the client. So as you can see, it's mostly pretty straightforward. The next bit, of course, is we sort out our receive method. So we just pull inside our try catch, and the only thing we print out is any unforeseen errors, and then we just bang on with what we're doing. So we have an object state, and this will be our state, and we initialize it. It's a new object state, and we can say state.w.socket will be our client, and we can say our client that begin receive. So we're passing our state dot buffer 0 object state dot buffer size so object state, we go to the object state buffer size, so make this a public. So go back here, come back here, object state dot buffer size, we have a 0 again, and our new async callback. So this would be our receive callback. And then our state. So we add a method. We add a method receive callback. So we can handle it and receive callback. So we just go ahead and do it straight away. So we've got our receive callback here. So inside it we put a try catch. So we just print out the error. So inside here we've got our object state, of course. This will be our state. We pass it. It's an object state, and we say AR dot async state. So then when we have a variable, we call it a client, which is equal to state dot w.socket. So as you can see, we've got another one, byte rate here. Byte read is equal to our client that and receive. We pass in our AR. So we can say if the byte read is greater than 0, we can say state.sb.append encoding .h dot get string state dot buffer 0 byte read. It's a new async callback, and this will be our receive callback. And we pass the state. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. And actually, there's one little mistake. So here we just go back after the buffer state of buffer. We have 0 and byte read. That's it. And we have client that begin receive. This will be the state dot buffer 0 object state dot buffer size 0 new async callback, and you could put receive callback. Then we pass the state. So as you can see, they're mostly pretty straightforward. Else we say if state dot sb dot length is greater than 1, we say response is equal to state dot sb dot to string. Then we can say receive completed dot set. So as you can see, they're all pretty straightforward stuff. The next bit of course will be we come back to where we were. Now we have a receive. So we have a send, which is not implemented. So we go to the send. We actually make changes to that, of course. So we have our send here. So we have our byte array, and this will be our byte data. It's equal to encoding dot h dot get bytes. So we passed in the data. And we have our client dot begin send. So we have our byte data 0, our byte data dot length 0, our new async callback. This will be send callback. So this is what we will create later on. Then we put in our client here. So we create a method send callback. So what we do is we just bang on straight away. We go to the send callback. We sort them out straight away. So we put in a try catch. Try catch, of course. I'm just gonna print it out in the console. Just nothing really fanciful. We got a socket here. Client is equal to socket AR dot async state. Pass it on to us. Then we have our int. Got our byte. Send is equal to client dot and send AR So we have a console write line. And we say send byte send. Server. So we send completed. That's it. So as you can see, it's pretty simple stuff. And then the next bit, of course, will be we have a connection callback that we need to sort out as well. So obviously it's pretty much the same as the other ones. So we have our try catch. So what we do is remove the throw, and then we have our socket. This will be our client. It's equal to pass it as a socket. Async state. Then we've got our client dot end and connects. Pass our AR. Then we've got our CW for console write line. Then we've got socket connection client dot remote endpoint dot string. Connect completed dot wait dot set. Sorry. So it's pretty simple stuff. So the next bit, of course, do we have receive callback? Connect callback. Receive callback, connect callback. So we come back to the main just to try to send if we've got everything up and running. So what we do is we just say async socket client dot start, and we're just gonna put console.read line here. Not necessarily important. Now we make a multi-project startup. Then I'm just gonna add. So as we're starting up here, so you see we've got both the client and the server, but before we have to make sure we continue, like press any key to continue on the server first before the client. So we just go ahead. So now we've got the server started and waiting for an incoming connection. So we just go ahead and just minimize this bit a little here. Yeah, and then this is the client. So once we actually press enter, we expect both the communication to begin. So as you can see, once I press the enter, I've got the data sent. This is socket message, and this is a socket message. So, and it's of course it's a 28 bytes. So to make it even more centric, what we would do is we're just going to change the message. Go to the client. This is a socket message, right? So here, what we do is we put this bit here, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna pass in a datetime .utc dot. Okay, we're just gonna put this here, and we run it again. So here now we've got server. So we actually press enter to start the server first. So we press enter here now. So now we have the server started and waiting for our incoming connection. So we just connect with the client to the service. So as you can see, connection established. We send in 50 bytes to the server and the data is received. This is a socket message and including the date that we send in, and of course it's a 50 bytes. So as we can see, this is how they go on. But obviously next bit is we will go ahead and try to just advance ourselves in this part. So if you're here, please make sure you, and you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and catch up on the next video. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.